What is up, guys? This is Alex from Double Move Sports, back today with another perfect offseason video. This has been an incredibly fun series where I take a team and I look at their cap space, the free agents they have, the potential free agents on the open market, and their draft capital. And I basically put together the perfect offseason for this organization based on what they're doing. Are they competing? Are they rebuilding? What are their needs? And today I'm getting into the Philadelphia Eagles. This one's going to be a lot of fun. They have a lot of potential moves they could make. So this Eagles rebuild perfect offseason is going to be a blast. But before I get into it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also throw in the comments other teams you would like to see me break down next. Helps us a lot here at Double Move Sports. Now let's get right into these Eagles. The Eagles are coming off of a disappointing 4-11-1 season where, surprisingly, they were still competing for the division until the very end. Doug Peterson has been fired, and they have hired former Colts offensive coordinator Nick Sirianni to be the next head coach. So, new page turning in Philadelphia. And the biggest question for this team really this offseason is what to do at the quarterback position. But we are going to get into that and more in this video. And what's going to make it really tough for the Eagles is their cap space projection. They're actually second to last in the NFL in terms of projected cap space. They're in the negative. Now, fortunately for the Eagles, there are some things I'll get into that they can do to provide some flexibility for this year and for the future. But they're going to need to do some work. And you look at the veterans on this team, they're key players that have bigger contracts. You got Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz, Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, who had the torn Achilles in the 2020 season. Before the season, you got Jason Kelsey, who could retire. We'll see. Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave at defensive tackle, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, also on the D-line, and then Darius Slay at cornerback. So you have a ton of big contracts, veteran guys on this team. It's a team that's for the most part, a young offense and a veteran defense. So a very interesting makeup. But to get some cap space, the Eagles are going to have to move on from some veterans and also do some creative work with their roster to give them any kind of flexibility, not only for this year, but really thinking about the future and this rebuild. So the first thing they can do is rework some contracts on this team. They've already reworked deals for Alshon Jeffrey and Malik Jackson. That's helped. Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, two more guys that they could rework, increase their signing bonuses, defer some of that cap hit to the future, give them more flexibility right now. Same thing with Derek Barnett. He's probably going to get an extension here soon if they want to keep him. In his extension, construct the deal in a way to where they can lower the blow on the cap now and defer some of that to later when they will have more flexibility. So reworking contracts is an easy way to get around the cap for this season. Also, you're going to have to cut some guys, and Deshaun Jackson is the name that pops to the top. I know it's tough. He's an Eagle. He's still actually playing at a pretty high level when he's healthy. But if they cut Deshaun Jackson, it gives them $5 million in cap flexibility for this season, another $5 million beyond this season after that dead cap hit clears. So cutting Deshaun Jackson for where this team is at could make the most sense. And last but not least, this is where it's going to start getting debatable, controversial. I want to see it in the comments below. The Eagles should trade Carson Wentz unless they really believe he's a guy that can take them to the Super Bowl. And I still think Carson Wentz has juice, but based on this Eagles team, based on what we've seen from Wentz and the Eagles, I think he needs a reset, kind of like a Ryan Tannehill did when he went to Tennessee. So I'm going to have the Eagles trading Carson Wentz in this perfect offseason scenario. It only saves them $1 million in 2021. So this isn't like an immediate injection to the cap. But beyond 2021, it's going to save them $33 million. After this next season, he's going to be completely off their books if they trade him. That's going to be huge for this team and their cap flexibility in the future. So the $1 million now, the increased flexibility in the future makes this make sense. And I still think there's teams that will bite on Carson Wentz. I think the Colts are a potential target. I know there's been rumors about it with Nick Sirianni as the new head coach. Some people think he won't get moved. But in this perfect offseason scenario, we're going to say that they get a trade with the Colts for that 21st overall pick in the first round for Carson Wentz. Not only can they really offload some of that cap bind that they're in, but get some good draft capital as well. So that's how we're going to make room for this Eagles team. And now we're going to start looking into re-signing some guys. The Eagles free agents include Jason Peters, Jalen Mills, Nikel Roby-Coleman, Vinnie Curry, Boston Scott, Alex Singleton, Nate Gary, and Duke Riley. Of this list, you can't really bring everyone back. I think Jason Peters, at his age as a veteran, is either going to retire or play for a new team. Jalen Mills at safety is someone I actually would really like to see them bring back. A leader in that secondary. He's played at a fairly high level. In this scenario, we just did everything we could to clear up some cap space. We're going to say that they can get Jalen Mills back for that secondary. Nickel Roby-Coleman, his play has really declined, and I think we're going to address cornerback later on, so we're going to let him go. Vinny Curry, we're going to let go. And then these next two guys, Boston Scott and Alex Singleton. Singleton's been a tackle machine. These guys are both restricted free agents, so I think the Eagles will keep them. Boston Scott, they should be able to sign to a lower veteran deal to serve as that backup change of pace guy to Miles Sanders. And Alex Singleton has just been a real rock in that defense, so I think they can bring him back fairly affordable as well. Let Nate Gary and Duke Riley go as more depth veteran rotational pieces. And there you have it. So we're going to let go of Jason Peters, Nickel Roby-Coleman, Vinny Curry, Nate Gary, and Duke Riley. We're going to re-sign Jalen Mills, Boston Scott, and Alex Singleton with some of that cap flexibility we were able to create. And there's other deeper names. I think Greg Ward is a restricted free agent, amongst others. But those are guys that, we're not going to break down every single name, guys that aren't really true impact players for this team's future. So for the sake of it, these are the key players we're going to break down. And now we're going to go ahead and move over to NFL free agency. And to me, the Eagles, like I said, aren't going to have a ton of cap space to go spend up. Based on what we've done with some of this flexibility, maybe they can get a middle tier guy at a position of need. Something I would love to see them do is address the wide receiver spot. I know you have Jalen Reagor, very promising young talent. Alshon Jeffrey's on his way out the door in his career. Who knows if he'll even be back next season. But there's some really good free agent wide receivers this year. You look at the class, they got Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, even some veterans, Marvin Jones. Curtis Samuel is going to be a free agent, just had a breakout year, T.Y. Hilton as well. So a lot of potential targets for the Eagles. I think those top tier names, as amazing as it would be to get Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson, they're realistically not going to have the cap space to get those guys. But one of these middle tier guys that I would love to see the Eagles sign is Curtis Samuel, an emerging player with speed and versatility. He's kind of like the Swiss Army knife that this Eagles team really needs. He can line up in the backfield. He can do jet sweeps. He can go deep. He's not like this true alpha wide receiver one guy, but he gives them some explosiveness to this offense. Pair him with Jalen Reagor speed and Marquise Goodwin speed, who's actually going to be coming back from an opt-out. And you start to build a little bit of a receiving core. We can also address the wide receiver position in the draft later on, which we will. But yeah, I think without being able to afford, one of these Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin type names, Curtis Samuel could be a really good explosive player for this team, line up in the slot and give that offense a big lift with Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position. So like we said, really in free agency, you're probably going to end up signing some depth veterans and things like that. But Curtis Samuel is the big name. Now let's move forward to the draft and look at the Eagles draft capital. They have pick 6 in round 1. They have pick 21 in round 1 in this scenario because we traded Carson Wentz to the Colts for that 21st overall pick. They also have pick 37 in round 2 and pick 70 in round 3. They have some round 4 through 7 selections as well, but the hit rate typically isn't as high. They might hit gold and really find some impact players there, but for the purpose of this video, we're just going to break down those first 3 rounds. And it starts out here with the 6th pick of the first round. It's going to be interesting to see who is available for this Eagles team. Guys like Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, who knows, could be available. They could make a splash signing at the wide receiver spot, but I would love to see them go ahead and get some youth on this defense here at the 6th overall pick. Take Patrick Surtain Jr., cornerback out of Alabama, get the top cornerback in this class, get someone who is an absolute stud. He was a stud at Alabama. He's got that physical NFL cornerback prototype where he can match up against some of these big wide receivers and truly be an every down starter right off the bat. And you pair up Patrick Surtain Jr. with Darius Slay, and their secondary combo is immediately looking fantastic. And the Eagles have struggled at cornerback historically through the years, a lot of times because of injuries, but this would give them a huge lift there. So Patrick Surtain Jr., stud cornerback out of Alabama, is the pick here at 6th overall. Now moving forward to that 21st overall pick that was acquired for Carson Wentz, we're going to go with Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive tackle out of USC. You pick up a guy here who can play tackle or guard. He helps replace Jason Peters on that O-line. And you really start to build some solid continuity on that line with Brandon Brooks coming back at guard, Lane Johnson at 1 tackle, Jason Kelsey, assuming he does not retire, at center. Now you bring in Elijah Vera Tucker, you get another young piece to pair with some of those veterans that you already have on the O-line. Protect Jalen Hurts, your young quarterback. It just makes too much sense for me for the Eagles to take an offensive line, whether it be here in a pick that they acquired through a trade, or even if they don't end up trading Carson Wentz later in the draft. I think they will address the O-line. So in this perfect scenario, we're going to go ahead and lock that up with a round 1 talent in Elijah Vera Tucker. Now moving forward to round 2, pick 37, we're going to finally go back to that wide receiver spot and pick up Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. They pick up a very talented wide receiver on the outside here in Bateman. And if you think about this, this would give them Jalen Reagor and Rashad Bateman on the outsides, Curtis Samuel in the slot as a utility guy, with Goddard and Zach Ertz, at least for the time being, at tight end. You start to really build some weapons around Jalen Hurts, start solidifying that O-line. You have Miles Sanders and Boston Scott at running back. This team is really coming together. And if these receivers can start to continue to make strides, Reagor struggled with injuries last season. Bateman obviously would be coming in as a rookie. You see these guys start to emerge. If Curtis Samuel can continue to emerge, you really start to build some weapons here in Philadelphia. And Bateman's a guy who doesn't wow you with athleticism. He's not going to burn you deep, but you have that in Jalen Reagor. You have that in Curtis Samuel. Bateman is really like a Michael Thomas comp. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Michael Thomas, especially right off the bat, but just a finesse wide receiver who gives you a stable go-to option in this offense. And I think Bateman would give them a huge lift. Last but not least, in round 3, we're going to go back to the defensive side of the ball, pick up Jacoby Stevens, linebacker from LSU. This guy can be an immediate rotational piece in their defense. I know back in free agency, we let a couple rotational linebackers go. Get some youth here with Stevens. He can play that outside linebacker spot and just give them some depth and upside. And he might not come in and be an every down starter from week 1, but he's a guy with potential who can come in, play a role, and maybe develop into an every down starter in the NFL. So Jacoby Stevens is the pick out of LSU in round 3. So real quickly, let's recap this draft. I'll throw it up on the screen here. You got Patrick Surtain Jr. in round 1. At your second pick in round 1, you have Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive tackle out of USC. In round 2, Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. And in round 3, Jacoby Stevens, a linebacker out of LSU. All right, so that breaks down all the moves we are going to make for this Philadelphia Eagles team this offseason. Really quickly, let's recap everything. I'll put it up on the screen here. First, you're going to rework contracts and trade Carson Wentz for a first-round pick. You're going to release Deshaun Jackson. In free agency, you're also going to let Jason Peters, Nickel Roby-Coleman, Vinny Curry, Nate Gary, and Duke Riley hit the open market. You're going to re-sign Jalen Mills, Boston Scott, and Alex Singleton. Looking at the open market in free agency, you're going to bring in Curtis Samuel at the wide receiver spot. And last but not least, in the draft, you're going to pick up Patrick Surtain Jr., Elijah Vera Tucker, Rashad Bateman, and Jacoby Stevens. Really start building young talent on this Eagles team. So guys, that does it for this video. A lot of moves for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this, if you want to call it a rebuild, could be fairly quick. They could continue to be competitive this season. And with some of this young talent and increased cap flexibility for post-2021, they could be back to being a contender very, very quickly, especially if Jalen Hurts continues to improve as a quarterback and continues to grow. And we see the best side of Jalen Hurts, not the worst side as we look forward. So let me know what you think. Drop in the comments below what you would have done differently. Which parts of this breakdown did you like? Also, again, let me know which teams you want to see me break down next. I am rolling through these, and getting some teams on the priority list is always a good thing. Hit that like and subscribe button before you go. And that's it, guys. We're done here. So again, this is Alex from Double Move Sports, and we'll see you next time.